The film follows a group of Paris police officers whose tight bond and sense of duty are slowly eroded by pressure, secrecy, and moral compromise. It opens with a tense surveillance operation targeting a man named Mamadi. The officers from the Search and Intervention Unit coordinate by radio as they tail him through the streets, subway entrances, and traffic-clogged avenues of Paris. Mamadi quickly reveals himself to be skilled in counter-surveillance, deliberately confusing the team by changing routes, doubling back, and switching vehicles. The chase escalates into a chaotic pursuit involving taxis, motorbikes, and footbridges, ending when Mamadi escapes by blending into a crowd. The operation is considered a failure and the unit is reprimanded for recklessness and excessive public risk despite no civilians being hurt. Among the team are Antoine Serta, a highly skilled but emotionally volatile officer, Hannah, a tough and capable colleague with whom Antoine shares a complicated romantic relationship, Sammy, the charismatic leader, Vinny, a hard-drinking cop struggling after a divorce, Walid, a former Foreign Legion soldier adjusting poorly to police work, and Richard Estevez, a quieter, increasingly unstable officer. After the failed operation, internal tensions surface. Management criticizes the unit, warning them that public tolerance for aggressive policing is wearing thin. The officers cope with gallows humor, alcohol, and bravado, but the cracks are evident. Antoine's personal life begins to unravel when it is revealed that he secretly participates in illegal bare-knuckle fights organized by a man named Marcus. Antoine claims self-defense in a series of brutal incidents that leave several men seriously injured, but internal affairs sees a pattern of uncontrolled violence incompatible with police ethics. During a disciplinary hearing, Antoine is confronted with the reality that his rage and inability to disengage from violence threaten his career. Rather than being suspended outright, he is transferred from the elite Search and Intervention Unit to a less prestigious post with the Anti-Crime Squad in Bobigny. The transfer deeply wounds him and he distances himself from his former teammates, including Hannah. Months later, the once close group has fragmented. Vinny spirals further into alcoholism, Richard's mental health deteriorates, and Sammy becomes increasingly secretive. One night, Vinny is ambushed and shot dead in his car. His murder shocks the police community and suggests something darker than a random act of violence. Antoine, now removed from his old unit, learns of Vinny's death and senses that it is connected to unresolved business from the past. Soon after, Antoine is approached by Sophia Estevez, Richard's wife, who reveals that Richard has been missing. Richard had been hospitalized at Barbane's Clinic, a psychiatric facility for police officers suffering from paranoid delusions. He escaped weeks earlier, and Sophia fears that he has been silenced because he knew too much. Crime Squad officers have already searched her home, intensifying her anxiety. Antoine promises to look into it, even as he is warned by superiors to stay out of the matter. Antoine investigates Richard's condition and learns from a psychiatrist that Richard believed he was being hunted after a botched classified operation. A former neighbor of Richard's confirms that Richard spoke of powerful criminals and corrupt protection at high levels of the state, insisting that his own management had betrayed him. Although the neighbor dismisses much of it as paranoia, he gives Antoine a phone number Richard had asked him to keep as insurance. Tracing the number leads Antoine to Christina Dangfa, an escort with ties to drugs and nightlife. She admits to having seen Richard recently and confirms he was hiding and frightened, but claims she does not know his location. At the same time, Antoine learns that after his transfer, Sammy revived a clandestine special investigation team operating in legal gray zones with political backing. Richard, Vinny, and others were involved, lured by money and authority. Whatever they did went too far, and now the team appears to be cleaning up loose ends. As Antoine digs deeper, he is repeatedly warned off by Cecile Wagner, the new head of Crime Squad, who implies that pursuing the truth will destroy his career. Hannah, now working narcotics, reluctantly helps Antoine by identifying people connected to Mamadi and the underground network, even though she believes the situation is dangerous and beyond repair. The film builds toward the revelation that Richard has been abducted by corrupt officers connected to the secret unit who believe he is talking. In the final moments shown, Richard is being driven to an apartment against his will, disoriented and frightened. His captors blame Christina for exposing him and mention Antoine by name, confirming that Antoine's investigation has made him a target as well. By deepening the mystery around Richard Estevez and revealing how Antoine Serta becomes entangled despite having officially nothing to do with the case, Richard, increasingly terrified, believes powerful forces are closing in on him. Someone urges him to hide and lie low, promising to sort things out, but it is clear that Richard senses his time is running out. His paranoia is no longer abstract fear, it is grounded in real danger. Antoine confronts Sammy Belcom at the Search and Intervention headquarters. The once unbreakable camaraderie between them has rotted into distrust. Antoine points out the obvious: 2 officers are dead, 1 is missing, and nothing about Richard's mental collapse feels spontaneous. Sammy deflects, framing police suicides and breakdowns as tragic but common, blaming the job rather than any specific wrongdoing. Antoine is unconvinced. Richard's behavior, searching for bugs, changing phones, constantly fearing surveillance, suggests a concrete trigger. Sammy shuts him down, warning him to mind his own business and hinting that digging further will only make things worse. Meanwhile, Antoine arranges a meeting through Christina, hoping to reach Richard. Instead, he walks into a trap. The exchange of money takes place in a police facility itself, exposing just how compromised the system has become. Antoine is arrested and interrogated by Crime Squad Chief Cecile Wagner, who informs him that Christina has been killed and that ballistic evidence links the murders of Vinny and Walid to Richard's service weapon. Officially, Richard is now framed as a cop who snapped and began murdering his colleagues. Antoine refuses to believe it. Richard, for all his instability, would never execute fellow officers in cold blood. Wagner makes the stakes clear. To avoid a national scandal, a cop killing cops, the authorities will suspend Antoine and quietly confiscate his badge and gun. In return, they will overlook his recent actions, including stealing money from the evidence room. Antoine realizes that truth is being buried deliberately. He is expected to stand down and let Richard take the blame, dead or alive. Suspended but defiant, Antoine continues investigating on his own. He learns that he himself is being followed, abducted and beaten, yet he refuses to file a complaint. Behind closed doors, senior officials debate whether Antoine should be quietly rehabilitated or permanently sidelined. They acknowledge that while he is dangerous and uncontrollable, he is also the only one capable of uncovering the truth. Still, fear of exposure outweighs justice. A breakthrough comes when a senior official secretly confirms Antoine's suspicions. Richard is being used as a scapegoat. The source reveals that Sammy Belcom's unit had been running illegal operations under the umbrella of a revived unofficial special investigation team protected at the highest levels of government. These operations involved manipulating criminal networks, including one led by Karim Mahmoudi to serve political and strategic interests. A drug convoy robbery went wrong, resulting in the death of Mahmoudi's nephew Ikem. That moment set everything in motion. Richard, realizing that the operation had crossed an irreversible moral and legal line, began to unravel. He wanted to confess. Sammy, however, chose containment and cover-up. As Mahmoudi sought revenge and pressure mounted, the team began eliminating loose ends. Vinny and Walid were killed. Hannah was targeted and left critically wounded. Richard tried to run, but he was trapped between criminals and his own commanders. The truth finally explodes in a confrontation involving Antoine, Karim Mahmoudi, and Sammy Belcom. Karim forces Sammy to admit what happened to his nephew. Sammy confesses that the robbery was ordered from above to destabilize rival networks and justify future operations. Ikem's death was collateral damage. When Richard could no longer live with it, Sammy decided to silence him and anyone else who might talk. Everything was done on orders, justified as national interest. At the height of this confrontation, Sammy murders Richard and his wife, staging it as a murder-suicide to close the narrative once and for all. Soon after, higher authorities step in and dictate the final version of events. Karim Mahmoudi is declared the sole villain, accused of killing cops in revenge for his nephew's death. Sammy Belcom is posthumously cleared. The institution emerges officially untainted. Antoine is offered a deal. He will be fully rehabilitated, promoted, decorated, and publicly honored as a hero who died in the line of duty while stopping a dangerous criminal. The truth: systemic corruption, state-sanctioned crime, and the murder of police officers by their own commanders will be erased. Antoine understands the choice he is being forced to make: accept the lie or disappear. Before the end, Antoine learns that Richard left behind written records detailing every illegal operation, every order, and every name. The evidence exists, but he is warned that releasing it would change nothing. No one would investigate. No one would listen. The system would crush him just as it crushed the others. Antoine chooses conscience over survival. He refuses to surrender the evidence quietly. In the final act, he is killed under murky circumstances, officially described as a heroic death during the resolution of the case. The state seizes control of his story, rewriting his life into something clean, noble, and convenient. The film ends with Antoine Serda's funeral. Government officials praise his courage, devotion, and sacrifice. He is posthumously promoted and awarded the highest honors. Hannah, devastated but aware of the truth, listens in silence as lies are spoken over his coffin. The institution bows, respectfully congratulating itself for surviving intact. The final message is bitter and bleak. True justice never arrives. Corruption is not punished, it is reorganized and sanitized. Those who try to expose it are either broken, silenced, or turned into symbols stripped of their real meaning. Antoine Serda becomes a hero in death precisely because he refused to live as a liar. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.